So today we're going to talk about the advantages, disadvantages for buyers as well as sellers that want to have a property inspection, or also known as a home inspection. Let's get right to it for some tips and tricks. So let's talk about the property inspection or the home inspection. This is primarily done by the buyer in the transaction of a home purchase. It depends on how it's written into the offer. It could be written as I just want some general information, or it could be written in as a contingency. If it's written in as general information, I'm not really sure what the strategy is there, because you could use that information against the seller. And if you're not going to use it as a contingency, why wouldn't you just have the home inspection after you bought the property? But most of the time we see it as a contingency. Even if it's for informational purposes only, that information written into the contract is allowing the buyer to walk away from the deal. So that's usually where we see home inspections in our current market. One of the biggest questions that I get asked is, what does a property inspector or a home inspector inspect when they're doing the home inspection? And of course, he's going to come out, the home inspector, they're going to take a look at major items. We're talking about your foundation, your crawl space, slab. He's going to check for issues on that. He'll spend a lot of time in the crawl space because that's where a lot of hidden defects can be. Roof. If the roof is too high, he'll probably just do a visual inspection from the ground. But if it's low enough, they might get up on the roof and take a look at the roof. Windows, going to come around, open the windows, close the windows, see if there's any kind of fogging on the windows. Make sure, obviously, that they lock properly, that type of a thing. If appliances are conveying with the property and not in an as-is status, he's going to run the appliances, run the dishwasher, check the oven, the stove, all those kinds of items. And then, of course, continuing with the major items, such as electrical, okay, checking the panel box, checking the GFI outlets, those kinds of items. Plumbing, he's going to check the plumbing, make sure the plumbing's working properly. And the things that we need to make sure that he's not checking are going to be carpet, paint, cosmetic items. That doesn't come in the same category, let's say, as an HVAC system, heating and air. He's definitely going to check that. So major items is what we're talking about here for the property inspection, not cosmetic items. The number one thing that I think you need to make sure you take away from this is that he's not just trying to find items to kill the deal. He should be educating you, the buyer, on how to properly maintain these items or things to look at in the future that might need to be replaced. It should be an educational experience for you. So what are the advantages for a buyer to have a property inspection, a home inspection? Well, the number one advantage is, depending on how it's written into your contract, it gives you the ability to walk away. So you can walk away saying there's too many items, I don't want to mess with it, it's just, this isn't going to work for me. Depending on how it's written into your contract. That's very important. If it's a true contingency, you have that ability to walk. There's going to be a timeline, though, for you to make that decision, right? You just can't drag this out. So you got to make sure that you're doing it within the timeline. Another great advantage is, in Virginia, home inspections, property inspections, are done by a licensed inspector. It's not your Uncle Steve. It's somebody who actually has a license to do home inspections, and they're licensed with the state, with the Department of Occupational Regulations. Another great advantage is the education that you're going to get from the home inspector going through, hopefully, your new home, so that you can learn more about it and have the ability to make decisions for the future and have some plan of action for certain maintenance items. The other thing that you're able to do with a property inspection contingency is certainly ask for repairs. And it depends on, obviously, the motivation and the ability for the seller to make those repairs or possibly adjust price or concessions that are already in the contract to make up for any of those types of repair deficiencies. So what are the disadvantages to a buyer having a property inspection, a home inspection? Well, probably the number one is it does weaken your offer. It weakens your position, especially if you're making it as a contingency, which would be typical. Putting the home contingent upon what the home inspector finds can definitely weaken your position. Think about it. If the price was the exact same on two offers and one person made it contingent upon what a home inspector finds, and somebody made it not contingent on that, didn't ask for a home inspection at all, which offer would you take if you were the seller? So it can definitely weaken your position. The other disadvantage, I guess you could call it that, is the buyer does have to pay for the home inspection up front. That is an upfront cost that you're paying whether you move forward with the transaction or not. You might see home inspections, depending on the square footage of the home, probably starting around $300 and maybe going up to the $600-700 range, once again, depending on the square footage. The other thing that a lot of agents don't relay to their buyers is if you don't ask for the home inspection, you might be able to get the home for a lower price. That contingency is worth money to a seller. You not having the contingency in the offer is definitely worth money to the seller. So think about how much risk you're willing to take and maybe get the house at a better price than what you would if you paid and at a higher price but had that home inspection contingency in it. Just some ideas, some things to think about as a buyer who's deciding whether or not to do the home inspection or not. So let's talk about the seller side now. What are the disadvantages to allowing a buyer to have a home inspection, a property inspection on your property? Well, certainly the number one disadvantage is that the buyer typically has the ability to walk, depending on the verbiage of the contingency. But that's usually the verbiage that you would see as a seller. So be careful to read your offer before you accept it, knowing that the buyer has the ability to walk away from the deal, depending on what they find, and they don't even ask for repairs. They just say, you know what, I'm out. So that's probably the biggest disadvantage. The next gigantic disadvantage for a seller is that items that are found by the property inspector and they are conveyed to you so that you have that information, and the agents that are involved in the transaction have that information, they are now material to the sale. So if you're not going to repair those items and this deal isn't going to move forward, you now have to either repair those or disclose items that were found by the home inspector, because now they are not hidden latent defects, they are material defects. And that is a gigantic deal that you definitely need to talk to your realtor about. Disadvantages of a property inspection. And the last disadvantage, in my opinion, is it does take your home off the market for a period of time while the buyer makes a decision as to whether or not they're going to move forward or ask for repairs. That time frame could be 10, 15, 20 days, depending on the verbiage that is written into the offer. So pay attention to the timelines to remove the contingency. So I hope you found this information helpful for both buyers as well as sellers. Don't think that you have to have a home inspection every single time you're going to buy a house. Look at the home. How old is the home? Is it updated? Does it have updated panel box and things like that? You can see a visual inspection without a home inspector just going through the home. If it's a 5-year-old home, we know the roof is 5 years old. We know the HVAC system's 5 years old. We know the hot water heater's 5 years old. So don't think you have to have a home inspection on every single property. This is where the counsel of your realtor really comes into play. Unfortunately, a lot of realtors are trained you always have a home inspection, and that is just not the case. I've seen a lot of agents over my 25 years of real estate lose homes for their buyers because they asked for a home inspection and it really didn't need one. Think about that. This isn't a cookie cutter deal. You need to make sure that it really actually needs a home inspection. So I hope you found this information helpful. My name is Doug Wolfe. I am with Redefy Real Estate, redefyflatfee.com. You can see it right here above me. I have a lot of other videos for buyers as well as sellers. Please check those out. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, like my channel. It really helps with me and my business and getting the word out so that we have educated buyers and sellers out there. Stay safe out there and make it a great day. We'll be back soon with a new video.